You might have seen plenty of videos about how India is not for beginners, but the thing is, it's not for pros either. You might have lived till 90 and felt like you won the game, only to find out that you've been dead this whole time. Let's say you're born in India. See, right there, that's a mistake. You should ideally look to be born in a comparatively beginner level country like Portugal or Japan in the morning of 6th August 1945. I'm obviously talking about after the bombings, of course. Before that, it was just a noise machine. But there's a 17.7% probability that you'll be born here. And you might think, oh, that's not so bad. There's still an 82% chance that I'll be born at least in an amateur country. And then you see the probability of being born in any of the neighboring countries, which is just the same game with different packaging, and sum them all up, and that's when you start pulling the umbilical cord. The state where you're born also determines how far you will succeed to some extent. For instance, a guy born here may have some trouble quoting his real height on Tinder, and a girl born here won't be on Tinder at all. Otherwise, the bigger contributing factor to whether you come out alive depends on the type of funding your hospital receives and how much health insurance your dad paid last year. So, you either come out all fit and healthy via a proper C-section, or just get delivered on the side of the road and start walking 3 minutes later. If you're an outsider, some of these things might appear shocking to you. You might say, there's no way someone will be born on the side of the road. Well, that may be true, but since there are so many of us, chances are at least 2 guys watching this video are already having a heart relate. In the animal kingdom, if you survive the first quarter of your life without any major incidents, there's a good chance you're gonna make it till the end. In India, the problems have just begun. Since this game runs heavily on themes of overpopulation and lack of resources, it's like playing a zombie apocalypse, except these zombies have names and you have to touch their feet occasionally. So, no matter where you are, you'll always be fighting for something. If you have siblings, you'll be fighting for your parents' money, land, and their attention.
And when you get all three, you realize all you ever wanted was their affection.
If you have a job, you'll be fighting for a raise or a promotion. And if you had some self respect, you would die of shame knowing all the things you did to get there, you moron. So, how does one reach success in India? Some might say by being selfish, others might say by being street smart, when in reality, it's by going over a pedestrian because that's the only gap you can find. Yeah, poor infrastructure in this game is not a bug, it's a feature. Potholes, traffic, unnecessary honking, jaywalking, not walking, vehicles coming from the left, coming from the right, make some noise, let's fight, illegal U-turns, illegal overtake, illegal parking, legal bribes, a dog, a cow, a goat are just some of the things you encounter on your way to the supermarket. As if surviving the map wasn't enough, health is another major challenge in this game. Many tourists come to India after taking dozens of shots and a medikit, especially for their children. But here, we don't vaccinate our kids, they practically do it themselves. Cleanliness, or the lack thereof, is a running feature, and you will find plenty of places which haven't been cleaned since the monsoons of 2011. You might have heard of the saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Yeah, here it translates to one man's trash is another man's permission to pile more trash. Which is why you should never invest in real estate in India if you're planning to go abroad, because by the time you come back home, it has turned into a landfill of used plastic bags and cardboard cutouts. Congratulations, you just paid land taxes literally to accommodate society's trash. I'm not going to talk about taxes anymore because Nirmala babe might be watching this video and might think of bringing back Swachh Bharat cess. Now imagine a game where you can't speak the language every time you enter a new city. Yeah, it's not Legend of Zelda, it's just South India. Language is a big barrier in this country, especially when you try to make new friends, which is good because now we have one more reason to say why you're alone all the time. As one can imagine, managing these many people in a country is not an easy task. So, we have devised multiple schemes to keep them from killing each other, which only works like half the time. One of these ways is the caste system. While the bit written by some sage about how it would be funny if people thought that they would divide themselves into some sort of a hierarchy and follow it for the rest of their lives was an average joke at best, my personal favorite being how mass's position can affect one's marriage. But people loved that joke so much that they decided to become a part of it. So, let's say you're in love with a girl and have decided to make the mistake of talking to her dad. Make sure you have all the following attributes. Good looking? Yeah, sure. Was the school crush since class 5? Not a problem. Fair skinned? Yeah, she might be a volunteer at HelpAge India, but her parents are bloody racist. But again, not a problem. Use fair and handsome every day. I've got this in the bag. Net worth recently got fired, but hey, I've got that 1.2 crore severance package from Google. Absolutely no problem. Caste? Yep, this was never gonna work out. I'll just start looking for jobs on LinkedIn. Religion's the other mechanism. It's very similar to caste, except on a wider scale. Just replace the previous joke with this, and not only is it another 30 seconds of stand up comedy brilliance, but will also help you understand what I'm talking about. If you were like me who scored 10 CGPA in 10th and still chose commerce as your mainstream, first of all, good luck with that BCom degree of yours. They lured you in with CA, didn't they? Anyway, if you are one of those guys, you might have read chapter 5 of class 12 business studies on the different types of organizational structure. So, to manage a company, you need different divisions and then subdivisions because it's too hard to handle without a proper arrangement. At this point, you might be wondering what the hell's going on. Don't worry, I was talking about religion all along. You guys just didn't know it. Like all other countries, religion started off in this game as a way to bring people together. Then, when they became too many, it became a clever way to divide people. And since that hasn't stopped reducing the numbers, it's now an excuse to straight up eliminate them altogether. So suddenly, even if you survive by dodging all the things on your way to the supermarket, you can still end up dead because someone from a different faith decided to kill you. Which is honestly not an effective killing mechanism. Let's say one communal death happens every hour in India, or even 10. That's still very low. If only there was some way to anger the masses through polarizing opinions and generalized statements. If only there was some way, the efficiency would be through the roof. Journalism in India may not be for beginners, but it's definitely not handled by pros either. It's so bad that it encourages you to do the ground reports yourself. Wait, is that a win for them? Although the country is tech savvy, you'll find every other guy in this country working on a ticket for deploying the next phase of creating a website for their client. A lot of the technology hasn't reached the ground levels yet. That's because in most countries, technology replaces people. In India, people replace technology. Traffic signals? We have a guy for that. Need to open doors and gates and press buttons on the lift? Have a guy for that. Scam people with suspicious phishing links? Oh, no bots and all. We have a whole company for that. Politics is the last piece used to handle the people in this game. There were more people who stood for elections than those who wrote the bar exam, more number of political parties than number of episodes in an average anime, and more money spent on election rallies than on Jeff Bezos' wife. You might think this was the Roman Republic's wet dream, but that's just the recently held general elections in India. I could talk for another 5 minutes and 37 seconds on Indian politics. Oh wait, I actually did. It's actually about politics in general, but let's not tell anybody that. Stop plugging your videos and telling them your tricks, you buffoon. Yeah, so just watch that, okay? For foreigners, the food here is untouchable. No. The caste joke's done. We're moving on. It's mostly because of how spicy it appears to them. So things like water, spicy, sweet, also spicy, and the actual spicy stuff, well, that's gonna burn a hole in your intestine. So the medical advice here is to drink a portion of liquid nitrogen to cool it off, which would also burn a hole in your intestine. But since the damage's already done, you can totally go ahead. Crime is the actual reason why India is not for beginners. Everything gets stolen here, from bridges to roads to ATMs, which turned out to be passbook entry machines. But hey, +1 for the effort. To chapels in temples and last night's dinner, which were just rats, but that's no way to call our neighbor. You also don't die normal deaths in India. Think of the most improbable ways of dying, and we have a whole buffet of it. Where do you think Final Destination gets its scripts from? Before they make a film every time, the cast and crew pay a visit to India for 2 months. And then you say there are no good action movies in India. Dude, have you tried stepping outside? Every time I go out, it feels like I am some side actor of a Fast and Furious film. And the way they are producing so many of them, I might have actually been in one. I just don't know it yet. People have shot on an iPhone at the end of a movie. We have shot in India. Just to tell the audience, we didn't pay professionals to do this shit. We just placed a tripod in Muzaffarnagar and left it. The entire movie is just a time lapse, bro. Anyway, due to the lack of resources I mentioned earlier, a large portion of the public are either poor or economically middle class. It's so bad that your cremation would cost you more than your salary and your life insurance money would be more than your net worth. So you're literally worth more dead than alive. A lot of this has to do with the competitive job market. It's so terrible that it makes you wonder if slavery wasn't such a bad idea, because then you would at least have a job. Back then, in the good old days, the owner with the highest bid would get to pick a slave. Here in India right now, it's the opposite. The slave, I mean the employee, that would bid to work with the lowest wage or annual package gets to be hired. Oh, what's that? You thought you have a graduation degree and can make a decent living working an 8-hour job? Chuck that, there are 300 people ready to work for 18 hours a day with no benefits and a bond that ties them to the company till 2050. Get in line, mate. Unless you have a better offer. Oh, you do. You're ready to work for free. Sorry, our interns are already filled. Education in India is not for beginners either. Actually, it's not for anyone. In the rest of the countries, you're taught basic stuff and then allowed to specialize in an area of your choice. In India, first 15 years, basic stuff. Next 2 years, basic stuff about some specific stuff. Next 3 to 5 years, a basic degree. And by the time you're ready to join the market, you have lost any identity you previously had. You are now an equivalent of a mass produced biscuit packet. Okay. I went for an interview once and the interviewer asked, "What is this?" I said, "This is my resume." She said, "But this is general." I said, "Yeah, I'm sorry, that's my caste. You know, it's a mechanism to divide people." She said, "No, I'm talking about your resume only." I said, "But I have a CA as a qualification in there." She said, "Yeah, that's too basic. Where's an MBA? Huh? Yeah, get an MBA. Okay. From IIM. Okay. 99.9 percentile भी नहीं चलेगा. Okay. And then get an ACCA and probably a PhD in economics, and maybe then we will let you as an intern for 6 months. I was like, you know what? I will pay you money. Just give me a job. Yeah, that's called a loan. SBI is in the next blog. Go there first. Thank you. And that's why I started my YouTube channel.